Most people see the park by driving across one of the most scenic stretches of pavement in North America. It's called the Going to the Sun Road. We begin our 52-mile journey on the east side, near St. Mary, because in 2024 you do not need a vehicle reservation at this entrance. The east side is much drier than the west, and the sunrise beautifully lights the mountains, shaped by glaciers. As we head west, the road is sandwiched between Two Dog Flats on our right and St. Mary Lake on the left. A sign at one of the many turnouts points to a very unique mountain. Water from this minor peak flows to 3 different oceans: the Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Arctic. The power of ice is plain to see above Two Dog Flats. Millions of years ago, this area was the shoreline at the edge of the continent, and sediment layers built up over eons. Accretion of the land to the west caused uplift, and more recently, several large glaciers have come and gone. The last one receded more than 12,000 years ago, and when it did, it revealed millions of years of Earth history. This relatively flat section is excellent wildlife habitat. Shortly after sunrise, herds of elk come down from the mountain to head to the lake. Bears and other predators also tend to drink at the lake in the morning. Never approach a bear, and don't get out of your car. It's much safer to see them through the window. This video, like the others on my channel, is sponsored by my retirement account. If you like what you see, please let me know by clicking the like button and the subscribe button. And then please leave a comment. I answer all of my subscribers. And if you'd like to hear some better background music, consider clicking super like so I can afford it. Now back to the show. Stop at one of the many turnouts and take a look around. A short trail from the Sun Point parking lot leads to St. Mary Lake. This sign warns that mountain lions have been seen in the area recently, so you need to be alert. Your reward for stopping is this view. And if you look carefully, you might just spot one of the smaller mammals in the park, like this alpine chipmunk. A few miles down the road is one of the most photographed places in Glacier National Park. It's the Wild Goose Island Viewpoint. This spot should be visited often, as the view changes throughout the day. In the morning, it's dramatic. It's serene in the afternoon, and by evening, it's almost spiritual. Just past Wild Goose Island, the road begins to climb, providing an excellent view of St. Mary Lake. Now we're entering the 2015 burn area. Fire is a part of a healthy forest life cycle. Dead trees aren't pretty, but new ones can be. Since the fire, it's easier to see the mountains from the road. A few miles later is Sunriff Gorge. The parking area is often full, but shuttles and tours also stop here. Climb a few stairs to see the narrow gorge. It's only a couple of feet wide. If you're ready for more exercise, follow the stream that cut it to Bering Falls, the double drop at St. Mary Falls, or go all the way to Virginia Falls. The road cuts through a variety of colorful geology. In places, the limestone is a dull gray or pale yellow. But then a few miles away, there's bright green argillite. And after that, there's a deep red former seafloor. And when stopping here, look down. Those are ripples from a tidal flat. Near the pass, the road cuts through the 1.2 billion year old Black Band. It was a lava field. The reason for the geologic diversity is fascinating and explained well in the roadside geology books available in the gift shop. As the road climbs, the forest gets thicker. The alpine portion of the road begins at the Jackson Glacier overlook. This is the largest glacier in the park, and this one, like all the others, was predicted to be gone by the year 2020, but they're still here. The higher up you go, the more twisty the road becomes. And at Lunch Creek, there's another great photo op. As we get higher, the views become more and more spectacular. It's very hard to capture the true majesty of the scenery with a camera. It's one of those places you have to really see in person to fully appreciate. There are tunnels on either side of Logan Pass. This is the East Tunnel. It's just below the pass. During certain times of day, cyclists are allowed to share the road, and there are a surprising number of riders who complete the route. It's an impressive accomplishment. From the west, there's more than 3,000 feet of elevation gain. Logan Pass is the highest part of the road. The visitor center is a very popular spot, and it's a good idea to get here early because the parking lot is often full by 8 a.m. You can also get here by red bus, as several tours stop here. The visitor center houses several exhibits, a small gift shop, and a comfort station. The hiker shuttles also stop here to both pick up and drop off those interested in hiking to one of the many trails in the area. The Highline is one of my favorites. Less than an hour hike from the visitor center after crossing a narrow shelf. There's another narrow shelf that I call my lunch spot. Just behind the visitor center, the 3-mile round-trip Hidden Lake Trail is one of the most popular. Here, grizzlies and other wildlife are often seen. In fact, it's not uncommon for the trail to be closed because of too much grizzly activity. But on this day, there were only goats. This is Hidden Lake from the viewpoint. Bighorn sheep are a symbol of the park. They can often be seen in or near the parking lot. The weather changes quickly up here. It can be warm and pleasant in the valley while it's cold, raining, or even sleeting or snowing at the pass. Clouds rush in from the west and are pushed up by the mountains. Cold precipitation is often the result. Meanwhile, east of the divide, most just evaporate in the drier air of the east. Just west of the pass, the road begins to descend. Around the first bend, opposite a waterfall, there's a short iron walkway that provides access to an overlook. That's the Highline Trail, just above the Sun Road. The road is carved into the Garden Wall, part of the Continental Divide. The descent is narrow, a bit twisty, and often under construction. There are plenty of pullouts where you can stop and take in the magnificent views. At one of them, you'll see Bird Woman Falls. It's one of the highest in the park, at 460 feet. It's still dwarfed by the mountains. Heaven's Peak is one of the better-known mountains along the Sun Road. There's a nice view of it at Haystack Creek, and in the spring, of the Weeping Wall. The narrow track and steep drops are scary for some, especially those going the other direction. Because the alpine section is so twisty, there's a 21-foot maximum length for all vehicles. There's a large parking area at the switchback called the Loop. In 2003 and again in 2018, much of the area seen here was burned in a forest fire that closed the park for part of the summer. From here we can see where old growth meets new. The West Tunnel is just below the Loop. A window in the tunnel provides a framed view of Heaven's Peak. Avalanches are common as temperatures rise in the spring. And here the power of an avalanche is clear to see. Each spring, several avalanches occur along the length of the road. Cleaning them up is one reason why the road doesn't open until mid to late June. The road eventually levels out and follows the contour of McDonald Creek. The pullouts provide a nice place to see color, especially in the fall. After several flat miles, you see another large parking area. It's for the Trail of the Cedars. It's one of the most popular places in the park. Here, the boarded point 7-mile wheelchair-accessible trail winds its way through an old-growth cedar forest. At the far end, you'll hear the sound of falling water. It's Avalanche Creek, where it narrows into a small but beautiful gorge. It's hard to believe that an area so lush, like this temperate rainforest, is less than 40 miles away from the dry grasslands of Two Dog Flats. The road continues west along McDonald Creek. As you've seen, Glacier is a very photogenic place, and several parking areas provide access to even more photo ops. This is one of the creek's many cascades. It was shot in the fall, when the water was low. In the spring, it can be a raging torrent. There are boardwalks at some of the pullouts, with nice views, quiet spots, and if you're lucky, wildlife. The creek empties into Lake McDonald. It's the largest in the park, at about 10 miles long. Lake McDonald Lodge is on the southeastern shore, and again you see the evidence of forest fires. By the time you've reached the western end of Lake McDonald, you've been on the road for about 2.5 hours. So you might want to stop in the town of Apgar, maybe for an ice cream, a snack, or some shopping. There's also lodging and a diner, and a nice view at sunset and sunrise. The Going to the Sun Road ends a few miles later at West Glacier. Since 1932, the 52-mile-long Going to the Sun Road has allowed us to see the prairie as it meets the mountains. It allows us to see spectacular glacier-carved valleys, as well as the largest glacier in the park. At the top, we saw one of the most scenic passes in North America, and the animals that live there. On the west side, we witnessed the rebirth of a forest, and walked through an old-growth cedar forest. The Going to the Sun Road. It's one reason Glacier National Park is called the Crown of the Continent.